What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Reagan Williams here. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to explain to you what my nutrition is going to look like throughout the bulk. So, of course, just to get you all caught up, I just finished the Blitz. Blitz was fantastic. 11 days of going as hard as I possibly could. I've taken a few days off. I've hit the gym sparingly while I've been back in Ohio throughout a maintenance phase. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've been having difficulty uploading, so I haven't uploaded in several days. It is now Tuesday, and I believe 6 days until the bulk, which incredibly spectacular. We're almost there, and I thought I'd do a video series to get us there with a little bit about, one, the nutrition that's going to be happening while I'm on the bulk. Next, I'm going to do the weightlifting session, how I'm going to actually train while I'm on the bulk. The third is going to be the cardio. And then finally, I'm going to tie it all together and give you guys a little bit of the lifestyle, how I'm going to make it work throughout the entirety of this bulk, which is going to be probably around 4 to 5 months long. We'll have to see. Of course, always have room to adjust, whether it's going to be longer, shorter, but we will get there when we get there. Wanted to start out with bulking nutrition, and this is a question I've been getting a lot from people that have been watching the videos. What is the difference between the cut, the bulk, the blitz? What signifies a bulk, and everything in between? Wanted to give you guys a deep dive into what it means to bulk, what it's going to look like for me to complete a bulk, and what you can be expecting diet-wise from me over these next few months. So without any hesitation, let's dive right into it. So starting off, what is a bulk? When, why, and how? So, distilled in its most simplistic form, a bulk is a dedicated muscle mass gaining phase. That is in complete contrast to the deficit or the cut, which I was just on, which was dedicated to losing fat. Now you want to, and really a significant part of each of these is in a fat loss phase or a deficit, you want to ensure that you are maintaining your muscle as most as possible. You want to maintain the most muscle possible. In a bulk, you want to keep your fat as low as possible. So that is kind of the difference there. When you go into it, a bulk should only be completed when one has reached optimal body fat levels. That's different for everybody, going to be different for everybody, but the leaner, the better. Why? Because let's say you approach a bulk at 8% body fat, you have a 7% buffer until you reach 15%, and now you're starting to look more like a power lifter and not like a bodybuilder. Of course, our main goal here as a bodybuilder, especially an aesthetic bodybuilder, is to maintain a bodybuilding look throughout the off season. So the leaner you start, the more of a buffer you have. Let's say you start at 15%. Your buffer is only going to be 3%, 2%, probably until you start to gain unwanted fat and you have an appearance that you don't particularly work out. And if you do work out, it's not for bodybuilding purposes. That's not where we want to be. So you want to start a bulk as lean as possible. Now, scientifically, in order to gain muscle mass, your energy consumption must be more than your energy expenditure. This just means you got to eat more than you burn, and the way that you burn these calories is through your basal metabolic rate, which is what you burn at rest. If you didn't get out of bed, you just laid in bed all day, what you would burn calorie-wise. The next, of course, most important, exercise. And then thirdly, NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically the in-between things, the laundry, doing the dishes, walking to the refrigerator to get your food out, the cooking you do, the little twitching, all the little in-between things. And all of this comes together to make your expenditure, and in a bulk, you must be in a surplus, which is the equation being weighted towards consumption. So you want to consume more than you burn. That is the bulk. That's when you do it, and we're going to get into how you do it. So next, and probably the most important, tracking. Okay, you want to track both your expenditure and your consumption. Now, as for expenditure, you see here, energy expenditure can be tracked by using a wearable tracking device. I, of course, use the Fitbit. I have the Charge 5, but any tracking device will work. This is why. So there's also the Whoop out there, the Oura Ring. You can get the Chinese off-brand through Amazon. Any of them will work because it's not particularly important that it is laser accurate. So I have here, and this is some psychology terminology for you guys. Validity isn't as important as reliability. So you want it to be internally reliable, and what that means is consistent. So let's say, and I'm going to get into an example a little bit later, but you want it to say on Monday you did an hour of cardio, an hour of workout, and it said 4,000 calories. On Wednesday, if you do an hour of workout and an hour of cardio with the same intensity, you want to ensure it says 4,000 calories and doesn't differ just because it doesn't have internal reliability. So that's the most important part here. Doesn't matter if it's extremely accurate because none of them will be. Just the manner of how they work. They can't be perfect, but you want them to be as close as perfect, and the closer the better, of course. But the main point is you want them to be consistent. So utilizing this data, you can establish a baseline of calories needed to be consumed to get into maintenance. Then once you have that, you can then increase your calories to ensure that you start to gain muscle and tissue. But, and this is very important, because we want to minimize our fat gain, we want to start conservatively and then increase based on what the scale says and what we see in the mirror. Very important. Probably the most important part of this is you want to start conservatively and increase slowly. Moving forward, consumption. How do we track our consumption? We measure our food on food scales or by packaging labels, and we prioritize macronutrients. Because our lifestyles can be hectic, we have sleep we have to get in, we work daily, we have just day-to-day life, we go out with our friends on the weekends. There's all kinds of different factors that go into your life. You want the diet, which is the most important, to be the most secured and the most, for lack of better terms, monotonous, automatic, however you want to put this. So I believe simplifying is the best practice. So I eat mostly the same foods on a daily basis. Lean ground meat, preferably venison, rice, vegetables, olive oil. And now I don't have to really think about individual macros of different foods. I can just calculate what the lean ground meat that I'm eating, the rice, the olive oil, and have a pretty good idea, because I'm eating the same thing, what the macros are going to look like. So like it says here, simplicity is our friend. We want the diet to be automatic. Continuing on. An example, practical example of what it looks like in my off season, especially just starting out. So currently weigh around 200 pounds, as you guys saw throughout the final blitz and the recap there. I want to consume at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, regardless of the dieting phase. And you hear this all the time. You see this all over the internet. But when I'm bulking, I want to keep my protein proportional with my carbs to a point till I reach 2 grams per pound of body weight. Now, there's all kinds of different literature on this. A lot of people say it doesn't make a difference, but the metaphor that I like to consider is the carbohydrates are like the workers at a construction site. The protein is like the bricks or the wood, the steel, whatever you're using to build the building. And then the fat is like the tools, okay? You want to keep the tools the same. Everybody's got the tools that they're using. Everybody needs the same amount of tools to keep the fat low. But if we have more workers, why would we not want more bricks? Why would we not want more steel? So that's why I like to, especially when I'm bulking, be able to increase my protein proportionally with carbs. But all that's being said, I never want to go over 2 grams per pound of body weight, so the maximum is going to be 400. I really probably never go over 367 would be a good number for practical use that I will not go over, and I will make up the rest with carbohydrates. Next, minimizing fat gain. That is, I talked a lot about this during the Blitz. The primary objective when I got really deep into my cut was to ensure I didn't lose muscle. I want to keep muscle. That's what makes you look good, full. People notice you when you have muscle. A lot of people get into, the later stages of their prep right at the end of their show, and they just look unhealthy. especially, amateur bodybuilders, people just beginning, people that are natural, they look unhealthy. Yes, they're lean. Yes, they're striated, but they have no muscle mass and they look deathly. They don't look good, right? And so that's why at the end of the cut, I prioritize keeping muscle mass. Okay, it's the opposite when we're gaining or bulking or in a surplus. We want to minimize fat gain. So, yes, in a byproduct of eating in a surplus, we're going to gain weight and we're going to gain muscle. Now, we might also gain fat if we don't eat correctly. That's why a lot of people dirty bulk. They just eat whatever they want to ensure that they have enough calories, and they end up getting fat. Now, if you're okay with carrying that weight, that's fine. But me personally, as an aesthetic bodybuilder and wanting to look my absolute best at all times, I want to minimize fat gain. How do we do this? The literature and the science and a few studies that I've read claim 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. Now, for a 200-pound male like myself, that would be around 60 grams. But fat does have important processes in the body, namely optimizing hormones, keeping your hair healthy, which is important for me. Of course, I have long hair, so I like that part of it. Skin, all of these things that just keep your body running as a well-oiled machine, performance in the gym. So I like to keep that number around 70 grams. And as I go further into this presentation, you'll see that's going to be a weekly average. So a lot of times maybe I'll be under that on a daily, but then we'll implement, as you'll see, cheat meals strategically to keep that number on average around 70 grams. But all in all, after we get, a gram to 2 grams of protein per body weight, 70 grams of fat per day, we can now manipulate our carb intake to create the desired surplus conservatively. So increasing over time, taking it 1 week at a time, analyzing the results, and changing the plan to best fit your needs and how your body is reacting to the diet and the food and the training that you are giving it and putting it through. Going forward and continuing with this example, as I already mentioned, and I guess this is more personal. This is more about what I'm doing, just to give you an example, a real life, what is Reagan going to do in this bulk? My goal calories on average expended is going to be 4,000 as tracked by my fitness tracker. Of course, I'm going to have days where, I rest and only do cardio. I don't go to the gym. Maybe I'll only burn 3,000 those days. Maybe there's days where I want to just crush it. I feel like I'm really going hard at the gym, hitting it hard, do 5,000, right? On average, throughout the week, I want to do 4,000 calories daily or around 28,000 calories expended per week. Now, this next point goes into what I was talking on earlier. It doesn't matter if it's completely accurate. What we want is consistency. So if Monday and Wednesday I do the same workouts, and on Monday I burn 4,000 calories, and Wednesday it says I burn 4,000 calories as well, we know the fitness tracker is doing its job. Even though maybe I only burn 3,700 calories on both of those days, we want that consistency. That way we can track our results and pair it with how much weight we've gained in order to see if we're in a surplus or are we at maintenance or, unfortunately, maybe in a deficit. We want to remain in a surplus, but do so conservatively and slowly. That way we never get into a land where we're gaining unnecessary fat. But that's the last point there. Because of the potential of error, we want to start our calories low and work them up. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So to give you an anecdote, I gave myself 10 weeks to diet down and really get in the best shape that I've ever been in. For 10 weeks is roughly 2 months and some change. For this bulk, the timeline is 4 months to 5 months, so roughly twice as long. So we have some room to start low, start slow, work our way up, and ensure when we're in week 12, week 14, week 15, one, we still have some room to push the calories and continue going, but two, our body is not gaining fat, we're just gaining muscle, and we still look good. That is the main objective of this bulk for myself personally. And anybody that wants to be an aesthetic bodybuilder, look good year round, look like the fitness people you see on Instagram, this is how you got to do it. You have to be meticulous with your diet. You have to be low with your fat content. You have to be high with your carbohydrates, and you have to be high with your protein sources. But you have to increase them slowly and over time. Marathon, not a sprint. As we continue, you see it. That's just a summation of everything I just told you. We start low. It's likely going to be low. I'm starting at 3,000. We know this is going to be low. Don't worry. We will increase this quickly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You would rather be low than start high. One, not have any room to grow. And then two, just gain unnecessary fat. So this is a breakdown, a little bit more of a granular aspect of it. 250 grams of protein, 70 grams of fat, 350 grams of carbs. Rough, right? Don't have to be laser focused. The only one that we want to be laser focused on is the fat. We do not want fat. Think about it, okay? You have carbs, you have proteins, you have fats. The carbs can either take the protein to the muscle and build muscle, or take the fat to your fat stores and store it as fat. What will we rather have? We want the carbs to focus on the protein and take them to the muscle. Thus, protein, carbs high, fat low, as low as possible, right? So that's that. Going forward, simplicity is king. This makes it easy. Now, once you get past the mental hurdle, and it is a little bit of psychology of, hey, I need variation in my diet. Hey, I want to cheat. You have to get past that. And the only way that you do that is through habit. And if you make the habit simple and you start to see results, it becomes easier over time. So this says, science is nice. It's also true. But if we don't have a practical plan we can utilize, it's all for naught. It's just living in theory. You're never going to reach your goals. That's why I think it's best to eat simple and repetitively. And yes, it does get monotonous, but if you find something that you truly like to eat and it fuels your workouts, it allows you to work out harder, and you see results, in this case, adding muscle while not adding a lot of fat, you're going to want to keep doing that, okay? And we're going to mix in some cheat meals. You'll see in a second. It's not all just nose to the grindstone work. We do it strategically so you create a positive reward system within your mind. The feedback loop feeds on itself and you become successful. This is what I've learned over the years I've spent studying psychology in conjunction with my bodybuilding and the way for it to work together in order for us to reach our goals. So this is my plan. This is what I'm going to eat starting week 1. Daily, 16 ounces of skim milk. There's no fat in skim milk. It's 0% fat. All it is carbs and protein, with 2 scoops of protein. Usually that's around 50 grams of protein mixed with, however much protein's in the milk. It's usually around 16 grams maybe. And then coffee and fruit. Fruit is only carbs. So for breakfast, all I'm having is carbs, protein throughout the day. And I make this the night before. So the night before, right before I go to bed, takes about 45 minutes. I'll make 2 pounds of lean ground meat, preferably venison. If I could eat just venison, I would eat just venison. It is the preferred food for apex predators across the animal kingdom, which is why I love it best. It is going to make me as savage as possible. They eat it for a reason. They're apex predators for a reason. And so who am I to argue with nature? I make that with 2 cups of jasmine rice. I make them together on the stove. And then I mix those together. Then I put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan, cut up my veggies, put the veggies in, mix it all together. Now I have my meat, rice, olive oil. It's all together. And it's ready for the next day. It's in one big container, put the lid on it, and now I eat it throughout the day the next day. Okay? And meal by meal, I'll put low-fat, controllable condiments on the food to make it more enjoyable. As it says here, I prefer no sugar added ketchup and hot sauce. Now, when I'm bulking, a few meals, if I desire, I can put Thousand Island on. I've discussed my favorite sauce. I will never exceed 4 tablespoons a day. That's 230 calories. Not a huge dent in, creating a surplus. Not going to make me gain fat. And it's only if I'm like super duper craving it. I don't have to do that. I can eat it all, just ketchup and hot sauce. But let's say I want to change it up a little bit. we'll do some Thousand Island going on. How do we adjust? Okay, so now that was week one. This is where we're starting. Probably low in terms of calories, probably not in a surplus, maybe not even at maintenance with this, but it's good, clean food, and we're creating a baseline. How do we adjust? We raise the carbs to fill in necessary gaps first, followed by protein. Fat always stays constant, like I said. So week two, we're going to up half a cup of rice to 2.5 cups daily. After that, week three, we're going to increase the skim milk intake by 16 ounces and protein powder by 2 scoops. How I'm going to do that is instead of just taking it as breakfast, I will now take it as breakfast and at night, right before bed. Week four, well, goes without saying, after each of these weeks, we're going to plot our weight. We're going to take pictures and look in the mirror, see how our body is reacting to this. If all is going well and according to plan, we will then up the rice again by half a cup. So now it's 3 cups daily. And then week 5, we'll continue to analyze, make adjustments. Maybe we'll add in another pound of venison or lean ground beef and continue to work it in until we find that sweet spot to where, hey, we are gaining weight on a trackable level that is putting us in a surplus of around 500 to 1,000 calories. So we're not gaining fat, we're just gaining muscle, and we look great. As it says here, we can only determine this with reliable tracking and adjusting as we figure out what we consume and what we burn. It is important, paramount, can't stress this enough. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If you try to sprint a cut, you can get away with it. You'll lose muscle, but you will lose fat. And what happens when you lose fat, your muscles start to look bigger. You have you don't have the fat covering it up, so your muscles just tend to pop out more, so you can get away with it a little bit. When you try to sprint a bulk, you're just going to get fat, you're just going to look bad, and you're not going to be happy. I can promise you that. So that's that. Here we go. Onward to creating this over time. And I touched on this a little bit. It's not just daily. It needs to be sustained over time. And an important tip for this is creating a graph to map your progress. It'll keep you on track. It'll say, hey, am I meeting my goals? Hey, am I not? You definitely want to set a goal of, I want to gain. So for me, it's probably around 15 pounds of weight over 4.5 months, hoping that 90% of it is muscle. So if you create a graph, you map out your progress over time, it'll keep you on track. Then when time progresses, we can change the plan to ensure that we're hitting our goals, we can increase our calories, decrease. But, it goes without saying, this is the most important part, guys. Start conservative, maximize progress, and you won't have to implement mini cuts. That is the number one enemy of a bulk, is a mini cut, because it just stops your progress. You won't progress anymore. You have to cut. Your body goes back into, hey, we're in a deficit, right? You want to stay in the surplus as much as you can. So don't want the mini cuts. Want to start slow and progress over time. Progressive overload. It's the same way with your training. It's the same way with cardio. It's the same with diet. You want to start slow and low and continue to grow over time. That way, we create the most optimal outcomes. So, like I said, we are going to get a cheat meal. We get a cheat meal every Saturday, one a week. It's hard for anyone to remain 100% compliant on any strict nutrition protocol. And for this very reason, we have planned and strategic cheat meals, satisfies cravings, increases compliance. Also a good way to up our fat consumption if we haven't had the necessary fats throughout the week, but also keep the fat gain to a minimum. So like the rest of it, we'll start conservatively, 1 a week, and then increase to 2, maybe 3, depending on what we look like in the mirror and what it says on the scale. So this is another important part, and I put this at the end to really drive it home. Because our calories are going to go higher, we are going to feel full often. And this is good for recovery, but if we're not smart about meal timing, it's going to hurt our training. We're going to get in the gym, and our digestion will slow us down. We won't be able to put out as much energy as we would like because our body is trying to digest the food we're taking in. How do we combat this? Smaller proportions across multiple meals and an hour and a half at least between your pre-workout meal and when you hit your first set at the gym. This will allow you to digest that meal and actually allow the carbs and proteins from that meal to fuel your workout and enhance your performance rather than hinder it. And then this last point is, if you ever miss food, you ever have a time where you can't get your meal in, save it until after the workout and have a bigger meal after the workout. That way it'll go towards enhancing your recovery rather than affecting your performance. And actually, I talked about this when we were doing the Blitz and I was at a deficit. If you eat after the workout, your nutrient partitioning is improved, enhanced to where the food's going to go to your muscles rather than, going towards fat. So if it's a large meal, you need it, do it after the workout, not before. So finally, final conclusions for the bulk. The bulk, 6 days away. We're excited. We're getting there. We're almost to the bulk. We are incredibly excited. These are the final conclusions for what I'm about to embark on, the journey, the adventure. I'm smiling just thinking about it. It's almost here, the main event, and the most important part about it is the diet, the nutrition side of things. These are the final conclusions. Start conservatively, of course, low and slow. Don't want to have to do a mini cut. If anything, we want to increase our expenditure in the middle of the bulk. We don't want to decrease our calories because that is potential muscle gaining time that we are unfortunately sacrificing to cutting the unnecessary fat. So start low, start slow, start conservatively, and work your way up. Number 2, track everything. In order for us to properly analyze our progress, we have to track everything. It's the only way that our adjustments will make sense. 3, keep it simple. Simpler and easier it is, the easier it's going to be to comply and be adherent to the diet and reach your goals. At the end of the day, reach your goals. You got to keep it simple. It's got to be something that you can follow every single day. 4, strategic cheating, of course, to amplify adherence even more. If you have a cheat day or a cheat meal coming up on Saturday, Monday through Friday, you can feel good about eating what you need to do to ensure that you minimize fat gain. And lastly, eat for performance. This is kind of overarching of the theme. We are eating for performance. Yes, we're going to have cheat meals in there to have a little bit of pleasure with our diet. Yes, we're going to have some Thousand Island in there to break up the monotony. But at the end of the day, we have a goal in mind, and that is to be the absolute best version of ourselves we can be, both in the gym, in life, in our relationships, with the people that we hang around, business, wherever you're at. And the way you do that is through what you feed your body. If you want to be a Ferrari, you better be on that 95 octane. That's all I got to say. So that is the nutrition for the bulk. I'm incredibly happy to be able to share it with you. If you have any questions, please reach out. Like I mentioned at the end of my Blitz video, I am more than willing to do one-on-one coaching, take you under my wing, turn you into an absolute savage, and get you anything that you desire. It's all at your fingertips, and the only thing that is stopping you are your individual choices. And by following these plans, you can get whatever you want. It's just that simple. But I'm open to that. But if you don't want one-on-one coaching, you just want to ask a couple questions, put comments down below. I'll answer any comments below. Also, you can get me Mr_6. It's Mr_6IX on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I'm also on TikTok, ReaganW236. You can email me, ReaganW236@gmail.com. But I want to hear from you guys. I love helping people. One of my passions, of course, bodybuilding is a passion, but also helping people, teaching people, coaching people, definitely a passion, and sharing information because it's out there. A lot of people just don't know how to access it. I want to be that bastion for success for you to be what you want to be. So that's the story. That's the most important part of the Blitz. Excuse me. I just did the Blitz. The Blitz was amazing. That's the most important part of the bulk. Bottom line, nutrition is the most important part of everything we do. So that's that for this bulk we're on. We want to minimize our fat gain, maximize our muscle gain, and we're going to do it. And you're going to see every step of the way. So like I said, I'm going to do a few more of these videos while I'm here in Ohio on this maintenance phase. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, subscribe if you want, and we will see you in the next video.